everyone, welcome to Terror on the Wind. Alright everyone, ready for a good scare. I mean, it is almost Halloween after all.
The perfect time of year for it.
Exactly. And, you know, what better way to celebrate, well, besides candy obviously, but what better way to celebrate than with some truly terrifying stories. And not just any stories, no. Candy corn.
Right.
We're talking ancient rituals.
Chilling folklore.
And even a true crime case that's going to make you rethink.
Trick-or-treating.
Wow.
That's going to be a creepy one.
Halloween has this way of
really tapping into those deep fears and fascinations that we have, you know?
Yeah.
It's that time of year when the veil between the real and the imagined,
it all kind of just thins out in those old stories about spirits and shadows.
they just take on a whole new power.
Okay, so let's get started with some history.
I've always been curious about the origins of Halloween.
Where did it all begin?
It can all be about, candy corn and pumpkin spice lattes, can't it?
Not at all.
Halloween's roots actually go way back to an ancient Celtic festival called Samhain,
Okay.
celebrated around October 31st.
For the Celts, this marked the end of the harvest season.
And the start of winter, a time associated with death and darkness.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They believed that during Samhain, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead.
It became blurred.
Wait, are you serious?
They thought that spirits could actually walk among us.
That's what they believed.
I mean, that's...
It's kind of terrifying.
but also kind of amazing at the same time.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, imagine that for the Celts.
This wasn't just a fun little holiday.
Right.
It was a time of genuine fear and reverence for them.
They really believed that these spirits could influence their lives.
For better or for worse.
Wow.
And that's where some of those Halloween traditions we still see today.
That's where they come from.
Like costumes and bonfires.
Exactly.
They weren't just for fun.
They were strategic.
Strategic.
Costumes were worn to ward off those evil spirits.
And bonfires were lit to appease them.
Wow. I never knew that.
It's fascinating how these ancient practices have evolved over time.
But they still retain just that hint of that original...
You're in awe.
It really does make you think,
What did they know back then?
what did they know that we've forgotten about?
And how did those fears...
Manifest in different cultures.
Well, that's the thing about fear.
It's universal.
Every culture has their own way of explaining the unknown.
Of trying to give a name to the things that go bump in the night.
Right.
Especially around Halloween.
That's when all those fears...
Bubble up to the surface.
So it's not just a Celtic thing then?
It's like a global phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Think about it.
Every culture you can think of, they have their own ghost stories.
Tales of spirit.
Creatures of the night.
And you often only hear those stories this time of year.
Okay.
It's like they're embedded in our folklore.
Okay, then hit me with it.
Hit me with some of those spine-tingling tales.
All right.
Let's go global.
Okay.
What do you have? Let's see.
We could start with the chilling legend of the Banshee in Ireland.
Okay.
A wailing spirit whose cries...
Are said to foretell death.
Or there's the White Lady.
Oh, the White Lady.
A ghostly figure found in folklore all over the world.
I've heard of her.
Isn't there a famous White Lady?
Who haunts Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky.
Yes, that's right.
I read somewhere.
That people have photographs of her.
They do.
It seems like every culture has their own version of the White Lady.
Each one with a story that'll send chills down your spine.
That's so eerie.
What's really fascinating is that...
Even though these stories are centuries old...
They still resonate with us today.
They do.
Why do you think that is?
What is it about these stories?
I think it's because they tap into something primal.
Something that goes beyond just time and culture.
Halloween.
It makes those stories feel even more real.
It does. It does.
Halloween just has this way of doing that.
Blurring the lines between what's real and what's imagined.
Absolutely. Halloween gives us permission to
explore those shadowy corners of our minds.
To really confront the things that scare us.
If even just for one night.
It's like we can just lean into it.
It's true.
It's a safe space for those primal fears to come out.
Speaking of real...
Let's shift gears just for a moment.
Okay.
And talk about a Halloween horror story that's all too true.
The 1974 Halloween murder.
Oh yeah.
That case...
This case...
is a stark reminder that sometimes...
reality is far scarier than fiction.
It really shook the foundation of Halloween.
Highlighting a darkness that no one could have predicted.
It's just unsettling, you know?
How something so sinister could be lurking beneath the surface.
Something that's supposed to be joyous and fun.
So tell me more about what happened.
Okay, so picture a typical Halloween night in 1974
Okay.
in Deer Park, Texas.
We have a father, Ronald O'Brien.
He took his 2 young children trick-or-treating.
Okay.
Seems like a normal Halloween, right?
Yeah, totally normal.
But sadly, it was anything but.
I was going to say, it sounds like this took a very dark turn. Ronald O'Brien had a very sinister plan in motion.
He was in a lot of debt.
And he saw a horrific opportunity to cash in on his children's life insurance policies.
Oh my gosh.
After they returned home from trick-or-treating that night.
He laced several pieces of their candy with cyanide?
No way.
I can't even imagine.
I can't even fathom the depths of that level of cruelty.
So what happened next?
Tragically,
The following morning, O'Brien's 8-year-old son, Timothy.
he ate one of the poison candies and passed away.
It's every parent's worst nightmare.
It is.
It sent shockwaves across the nation.
Yeah, I bet it did.
This case must have just changed everything.
It did.
The investigation quickly uncovered O'Brien's scheme.
And he was ultimately convicted of his son's murder.
But the horror didn't end there.
No.
The case sparked a widespread fear of poisoned candy.
And in a way,
That fear still lingers today.
you know, it makes sense though.
After something like that happens,
Yeah,
you can understand why people would be so afraid.
of course.
You know, it's like
Like it or not, this case turned a beloved tradition.
into a source of anxiety for so many people.
It's like it tapped into some very primal fear, you know,
It did.
blurring the lines between Halloween tales of like vengeful spirits.
And the very real horrors that exist in our world.
Exactly.
It's that intersection of true crime and folklore
Right.
that makes this case so unsettling.
Especially
around Halloween.
Especially around Halloween.
Yeah.
Speaking of folklore.
Are you ready for another chilling tale?
Always.
Okay.
In me.
This one takes us to the back roads of Wisconsin.
Okay.
It involves a supposedly haunted hayride.
Oh, a good haunted hayride story.
Oh, there's something about those rural settings
Especially at night.
that just really amps up the creepiness.
It does, doesn't it?
So tell me more.
All right, so this happened back in 1993.
Okay.
We had this group of friends who decided to really get into the Halloween spirit.
And they go on this nighttime hayride.
Okay.
But this isn't your average haunted hayride.
With like jump scares and fake cobwebs. This particular hayride had whispers of real hauntings,
Oh no.
fueled by local legends.
Really?
Okay, now I'm very intrigued.
What kind of legends are we talking about?
Well, the stories all revolved around this tragic tale
Of a young girl who had died on those very trails.
decades earlier.
Oh my.
Local lore said that she had fallen from a wagon,
And that her spirit lingered.
especially on Halloween night.
Oh.
So did this group of friends.
Actually encounter the spirit of this young girl on their hayride.
Well, that depends who you ask.
As they journey deeper into the countryside.
They experienced all of these unsettling events.
Like what?
First, there were whispers.
Just whispers carried on the wind.
Oh gosh.
Shadows darting through the trees.
You know, just classic signs that something isn't quite right.
I'd be turning back.
But the truly chilling part
Okay.
came when they noticed a figure standing by the trail.
A figure?
A young girl in a white dress.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, that just gave me goosebumps.
Did they think it was part of the hayride?
At first,
Yeah.
you know, maybe one of the workers trying to give them a good scare.
Right.
But as they continued along the trail, they started to realize that something was different.
What do you mean?
This girl in white.
She seemed to be getting closer
Oh,
with
yeah.
each pass,
Oh my god.
as if she were slowly approaching them.
No.
And her demeanor,
It wasn't that of like a worker trying to scare them.
it was so much more eerie
Really?
and just so unsettling.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so she never like actually interacted with them or anything.
It's a thing.
She never interacted with them.
So it was just like her presence.
It was her presence.
It was more like she was a silent observer.
And the way that she seemed to glide closer with each pass.
That's what really unnerved them.
Oh my gosh.
And the most unsettling detail.
Okay, well,
It came at the very end of the ride,
the friends decided to go back and check out the spot.
where they had seen the girl.
And guess what they found?
What?
A small grave
No way.
marked with flowers.
The inscription read, "In memory of little Clara, forever in our hearts."
So the legend was true.
Or
They
no.
really did encounter.
The ghost of little Clara.
What could it have been?
The power of suggestion.
That's true.
They had heard those local legends before going on the hayride.
That's true.
So were they experiencing like a real paranormal encounter?
Or did their minds,
primed by the stories that they had heard?
Did their minds kind of just fill in the blanks?
It's the age-old question, isn't it?
Were they really experiencing something paranormal?
Or were their minds just playing tricks on them?
Either way, it's a haunting reminder
of how closely tied reality and imagination can become.
Right.
Especially
on Halloween.
In a night like Halloween.
Speaking of haunting and Halloween,
I think it's time that we talk about Salem, Massachusetts.
Ah, yes.
A town that is practically synonymous with spooky stories.
It really is.
I mean,
Salem has that reputation for a reason, right?
Salem has a long history. But there's also this almost tangible layer of darkness to it.
Especially around Halloween.
Right.
And those witch trials.
They still cast a long shadow.
And that's what makes it
prime location
for, paranormal investigators.
Ghost hunters.
Exactly.
All that good stuff.
And speaking of paranormal encounters,
you were telling me earlier about a haunted house in Salem.
Oh, yes.
That went very wrong.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so this one takes us back to 1970.
Okay.
A group of teenagers decided to stage a haunted house for Halloween.
Okay.
They found this abandoned house just outside of town.
And this house had a very sinister reputation.
Oh, no good.
The locals claimed it was cursed.
But teenagers being teenagers.
Oh, they didn't.
Oh, they did.
They shrugged it off as nothing more than spooky stories.
They tempted fate.
They did.
They figured a creepy backstory
would only add to the authenticity of their haunted house.
Oh, no.
But almost as soon as they started setting up,
strange things began to happen. Lights would flicker.
Objects would move on their own.
And some even reported hearing disembodied whispers.
Classic haunted house tropes.
Right.
But it didn't stop there.
I was going to say,
on Halloween night,
with the house packed with unsuspecting guests,
things took a terrifying turn.
Oh, no.
People claimed to have seen shadowy figures
lurking in the corners,
heard blood-curdling screams echoing through the house,
and several guests even fainted.
Really?
Overcome by this sense of dread.
Oh, gosh.
It sounds like they awakened something they shouldn't have.
It seems that way.
Their little prank spiraled out of control.
It did.
What started as a fun prank
quickly escalated into a night of genuine terror.
The police were called.
Several people needed to be treated for hysteria.
And the teenagers who organized the event?
They were questioned extensively.
Oh my gosh. So what happened to the house?
Did it ever go back to normal?
Well, the haunted house was immediately shut down.
And the house itself?
It remained abandoned.
Do you think it was really haunted?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Some say that those teenagers...
He disturbed something.
That was best left undisturbed.
Whatever the reason.
That house is still a no-go zone in Salem.
Really?
Especially on Halloween.
It serves as a chilling reminder.
That
sometime
local legend.
They hold a grain of truth.
A warning whispered across generations.
It was a cautionary tale.
Especially around Halloween.
For sure.
It really makes you wonder.
Why are we so drawn to these scary stories?
These haunted places.
I know.
It's a good question.
What is it about this time of year
that makes us want to face our fears?
Confront the things that go bump in the night.
I think it's that primal instinct we have.
That dance between fear and fascination.
As humans, we crave a little bit of fear.
We do.
That adrenaline rush.
That comes with confronting the unknown.
It's exciting.
And Halloween
is the perfect time to explore those dark corners of our minds.
It's true.
Because it's the one night
when the veil between what's real
and what's imagined, it's at its thinnest.
So we're kind of safe.
Exactly.
Knowing that we can just turn on the lights.
And lock the door.
When it's all over.
It's like a form of catharsis.
It is.
A way to confront our fears.
And emerge on the other side.
Feeling a little bit braver.
And maybe even a little bit more alive.
I like that. A little bit more alive.
Well, on that note, I think that's a good place to stop for today.
Okay.
But the conversation doesn't have to end here.
That's right.
We want to hear from you.
Do you have any spooky encounters?
Or local legends that send chills down your spine?
Share them with us.
We're always eager to hear your thoughts and experiences.
And until next time...
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween. Yeah, this case is a stark reminder that, sometimes real life...
it can be way more terrifying than any kind of ghost story.
It really shook everyone up.
Because it showed this really dark side of humanity.
That you just don't expect.
Especially...
Oh, it's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be, happy.
And for something so sinister to be happening underneath it all.
It's just unsettling.
Tell me about it.
So tell me more about what happened.
Okay, so picture this.
It's a seemingly normal Halloween night in 1974
Okay.
in Deer Park, Texas,
We have a father, Ronald O'Brien.
who takes his 2 young children out trick-or-treating,
Okay.
just like any other Halloween.
Right.
But sadly, it was anything but
What happened?
Ronald O'Brien.
He had this really sinister plan in motion,
He was buried in debt.
and he decided to cash in on his children's life insurance policies.
Oh my gosh.
No.
I know.
That's awful.
When they got home from trick-or-treating,
He put cyanide in their candy.
are you serious?
Oh, awful.
Just horrific.
I can't even imagine.
Doing something like that.
I know.
So what happened?
The next morning, his 8-year-old son, Timothy...
He ate one of the poison candies and died.
Oh my God!
It really just shook the nation.
I can imagine.
Your case?
It changed everything.
Yeah, of course.
Big investigation. Quickly uncovered what O'Brien had done.
And he was convicted of murder.
But the worst part is,
What?
this case created a widespread fear of poison candy.
That we still kind of see today.
I mean, I get it though.
If something that horrific happened.
I'd probably be afraid too.
Right.
This case
It's
basically
like something that was supposed to be pure and fun.
and turned it into something that people are afraid of.
It's like this primal fear.
Right.
You know, like those stories that we tell about vengeful spirits?
And then to have it actually happen,
Yeah.
it just blurs the lines between...
Reality and fantasy.
Exactly.
So creepy.
Speaking of creepy stories,
Okay.
I have another one for you.
Hit me.
This one takes place on a haunted hayride.
Ooh. I love a good haunted hayride story.
This one's a good one.
Okay.
It takes place in rural Wisconsin.
Okay.
And let me tell you,
Those rural settings?
especially at night,
Yeah.
they just amp up the creepiness.
So much creepier.
So much creepier.
Tell me more.
Okay, so back in 1993, we have a group of friends who decided to go on a nighttime hayride.
And they wanted to get into the Halloween spirit.
Right.
But this wasn't your typical haunted hayride.
What do you mean?
This hayride
It was different. So, this one had actual rumors.
of real hauntings.
No way.
And these rumors...
They were fueled by these local legends.
Okay, what kind of legends?
So the stories all said,
That a young girl had died on the trail
oh my God,
years and years ago.
on the train.
Local lore said that she fell from a wagon.
And that her spirit,
Still lingers there.
especially on Halloween.
Oh my gosh. Did they actually see her
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
as they made their way into the darkness?
They started to experience some pretty creepy things.
Like what?
Well, first they heard whispers,
Whispers.
just carried on the wind.
Oh my god.
And they saw shadows moving through the trees.
Oh, that's so creepy.
But it gets worse. They noticed a figure standing by the trail.
A figure.
A young girl in a white dress.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
Nope.
Did they think it was like part of the show?
At first they did.
You know, like maybe one of the workers trying to scare them?
Right.
But as they kept going,
Yeah. They realized...
the something wasn't right.
What do you mean?
This girl.
She seemed to be getting closer and closer
No way.
every time they passed her.
She was a little bit closer.
That's so creepy.
And the scariest part.
Was that she wasn't like the other actors.
What do you mean?
She didn't jump out or try to scare them?
It was like she was just watching them.
So creepy.
So at the end of the ride,
They decided to go back and check out the spot.
where they saw her,
Okay.
and guess what they found?
What?
A small grave with flowers.
Rick, get out of here.
And it said,
In memory of little Clara, forever in our hearts.
oh my god. Are you serious?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does.
Did they actually see her ghost?
Right?
Was.
The power of suggestion.
They had heard those stories,
They answered.
so maybe they're mine.
Just filled in the blanks.
It's so creepy either way.
It really is.
Especially on Halloween.
Halloween does that.
It really makes you question what's real and what's not.
Yeah, it does. It makes those lines kind of blurry.
Speaking of Halloween and hauntings...
I think it's time we talked about Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh, Salem.
Town that's known for being spooky.
I mean, Salem is practically synonymous with Halloween.
For good reason.
Yeah.
It really does have a certain reputation.
It's true. Salem has this long history, but then it also has this, like...
Dark layer that just kind of hangs over it.
Yeah,
Especially around Halloween.
it's those witch trials.
They really left their mark.
They did, and I think that's...
What makes it such a popular spot.
for paranormal investigators and ghost hunters.
Oh, absolutely.
All that spooky stuff.
Speaking of paranormal encounters,
Yes,
you were telling me a story.
about a haunted house in Salem
Oh, yeah.
that went very wrong.
This one's a good one.
Okay.
So it takes place back in 1970.
Okay.
And we have this group of teenagers
who want to create a haunted house for Halloween.
Okay.
They find this abandoned house outside of town.
And this house has a reputation.
What kind of reputation?
The locals say it's cursed.
Oh, no, they didn't.
But of course, teenagers
They don't listen.
Teenagers never listen.
They just shrugged it off.
You know, thought it was just a spooky story.
They shouldn't have tempted fate like that.
They really shouldn't have.
But they figured, a good backstory.
It'll just make their haunted house even better.
Oh no, this is bad.
It is.
Oh.
Almost as soon as they start setting up.
Strange things start happening.
Like what?
Lights would flicker.
Things would move around on their own?
And some people even said they heard voices.
Oh gosh, those are all classic haunted house signs.
They are, aren't they?
But it gets worse.
It always gets worse.
It does.
On Halloween night.
The house is packed with people.
And that's when things took a really dark turn.
What happened?
Guests started seeing shadowy figures.
Oh no.
Lurking in the corners.
People were hearing screams?
And some people even fainted.
Really?
Yeah, it was like this overwhelming sense of dread.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It was.
Do you think they actually, awakened something?
I don't know. It makes you wonder.
What started as this fun prank?
Turned into this night of chaos.
Wow. So what happened to the house?
Well, the haunted house was shut down.
And to this day, that house remains abandoned.
Are you serious? It's still abandoned.
People won't go near it.
Wow.
Especially not on Halloween.
Because they're afraid of that curse?
They say it's a reminder?
That those local legends...
Sometimes they hold a grain of truth.
They do. It's like a warning.
Passed down to generations.
Exactly.
It really makes you think,
about all those creepy stories.
And all those local legends.
And makes you wonder which ones are true.
We're naturally drawn to these stories.
Yeah.
And to these places.
Why do you think that is?
Maybe it's that part of us.
He just wants to believe.
That there's something more out there. Something beyond our understanding.
Yeah.
Halloween lets us explore those possibilities.
Yeah. It's like we can...
safely indulge in our curiosity.
Exactly.
And maybe even face our fears.
In a way.
It's a strange paradox, isn't it?
It is.
We're drawn to the things that scare us.
But maybe that's just part of what makes us human.
Maybe you're right. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our Halloween deep dive.
But the conversation doesn't have to end here.
No, it doesn't.
We want to hear from you.
Our listeners. Do you have any spooky encounters or local legends that send chills down your spine?
Share them with us.
We're always eager to hear your stories and your thoughts.